Thanks very much. My name is Maja Gustafsson. I am an economist at the Resolution Foundation, which is a think tank in London. And we focus on improving the living standards for low to middle income households. And we do that through doing a lot of research, writing reports, talking to government, and encouraging public debate through speaking engagements, talking in the media, and talking about our work. So that's why I'm here, to talk about that. So I will share my screen to just so you can see a short presentation I have made. I hope you can all see my screen. So what I do as an economist is I do policy research, and it's focused at social policy, economic policy, and the way broadly it works, for those of you who don't know, is kind of the government makes policy, writes it, and then there's a lot of debate going on before that or during and after in the kind of policy community in London and elsewhere in the UK, and in government as well. So there are a lot of charities and third-party groups and organisations that kind of weigh into this debate, and Resolution Foundation is one of those third-party organisations. It's a think tank. It's independent, so it doesn't lean toward any party, but it produces research that is relevant to furthering our goal of improving the living standards for low to middle income families. And I was asked to talk about my story, how I got to where I am, and what I enjoy doing in my job, and any advice I have for those of you who want to do policy research or work as an economist. So I'm just going to move that. So one of the very good advice I had, kind of choosing a career path, choosing what to do at university, and something that I keep having in mind as I go through making decisions about what I want to do next and what I want to work on, is to define a topic area I want to work in, and define kind of like a broad area of a career rather than just a specific job. So for a lot of people, maybe aiming for a specific job works. If you want to be a doctor, for instance, that's quite a specific job. But if you're not quite sure what you want to do, you just know you want to work in a specific area. So I want to work in research, and specifically economic research. That is quite a good way of just narrowing down a little bit what you want to do. So when I was little, I wanted to become a marine biologist. I wanted to save dolphins from climate change and environmental degradation, because I was in awe of dolphins. But as I grew up, I started thinking about how do I actually change the world to improve the world and improve the environment. And reading up on kind of issues, reading up on how things worked, how policy was made, I realized actually the foundation of the decisions made by government, by firms, by kind of third-party organizations like think tanks, etc., everything's driven by money. And that's why I, instead of becoming a marine biologist and doing more research into the environment, I became an economist to try and understand the functioning of society and what the determinants were that could make the world better, and how I can fit into that kind of big puzzle of lots of people doing work. So that's kind of when I had these thoughts, is kind of when I was in high school, and when I was thinking about what to do for university. And the program I chose in the end was philosophy, politics and economics, because I thought that was a really good bridge between all the areas I was interested in. So economics, how money runs the world, how the world is run on money, what kind of determines the economic outcome, what determines different policy, and where money comes from. And politics, how these decisions are made, who makes them, etc. And then philosophy, because I was really interested in the motivations behind government decisions, the kind of how an ideal society should be. And that's what we learned in politics, in philosophy. So that was a really good program for me to develop my thinking on what I wanted to do. I still had no idea that I wanted to work in policy research because I didn't really know that these jobs existed. I didn't know that you could work in a think tank. I didn't know what that was. But I had my broad idea of what I wanted to do. And then it was a question of how do I actually go about doing that? And I chose to apply to Durham University. I'm from Sweden. I'm from a small town in Sweden, and going abroad for uni wasn't really a thing that people did. And so people thought I was reckless. Some people thought I was brave. I thought I was maybe somewhere in between. But what I wanted to do was try something new. And I really wanted to do this politics, philosophy, and economics course. And I just really believed that this was the right path for me. So the kind of takeaway from this journey for me was that if you do believe in something, you should definitely just go out and do it. And some people may say you're reckless, but you have to take some risks if it's risky to do what you believe in. And actually, people downplay the doing part of having a plan, but planning and thinking and dreaming about what you want to do and what you want to be is relatively easy, and going through with that is nerve-wracking. So moving to Durham for me, I was so scared about, I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been to England. I didn't know, I knew English, but I knew English from school. So I didn't really know how I would interact with my my future friends, my classmates, and it was just a really big challenge for me. And what came out of that was great. So I never regret going to Durham, but doing it was really, really scary. And when I was in Durham, I decided that I wanted to work in policy. I started to realize that policy jobs existed, and I started to realize that maybe economics doesn't run the world after all, or maybe economics can't explain everything. So I did a master's to understand more about the social aspects of the outcomes of policy decisions, of economic kind of structures, and how to influence these decisions on the government level. So my master's was in inequalities and social science at the LSE. So I went to London, and in London I also found this kind of big policy scene with lots of talks and events going on, lots of things you could join and network at and drink a lot of coffee with lots of people. But the big problem with working in policy is, even in London, that has a relatively big scene, a big policy scene compared to the rest of Europe, it's really hard to find a way in because the world is quite insular and lots of people know each other within this world. And getting on that ladder to do policy jobs is quite hard. So I had to find a way in to this world. And the way I thought best probably to do this was to do an internship, but a lot of internships are unpaid, and a lot of internships are kind of, it's not entirely clear what comes out of it. So I started looking at paid internships, looking at kind of longer internships, and I found one at Centre for Cities. It's great, and it was for 4 months, and I was able to go in and do policy research from the perspective of regional development, from the perspective of kind of urban development, which is kind of encouraging growth in cities. and encouraging growth in different types of cities. So that was really interesting, and it was a lot of what I'd studied at university. The problem with internships is that lots of people say it's kind of this perfect thing to do, and it's sort of a necessary thing. When you come out of it, you'll be great, and if you get an internship, you're kind of sorted after that, kind of like this picture. But that's not the case, and a lot of internships, like I say, are not quite that good, and you end up serving a lot of coffees, you end up kind of supporting a lot of senior staff. But actually, what you should take away from an internship is the chance to network and the chance to gain some experience and to gain that first reference on your CV. That's really important to get for getting a policy job afterwards, because it is such a small world. You depend on having good reputation, having people talking about you in a positive way. So it might feel like you're serving a lot of coffees, but actually, if you seek the experience, if you seek the kind of contacts and connections, you can still get something good out of it. It might not be the kind of catch-all solution, but it's a one step towards finding that way in. And for me, it's turned out well. I did my internship, I got a second job, and then I got a third job, which is the one I have now.
About him, because
and what I do now is I really enjoy it. I get to do policy research the way I want. I get to look at how economics determines the economic outcomes for families, and how we can help families by changing the way the economy works. So at Resolution Foundation, we write reports. We can give this report to the government and say, look at what we found, this is a problem, and then they can take that on in their decision making. And for me, that's a really valuable thing. The other thing that's really good from my perspective is that I get to talk about my research in media, at roundtables, at events. So for instance, this is me talking about the effect of coronavirus on workers, and actually it was a report I wrote in March last year. It was when the virus had just started taking off, and we were looking at the effect it will have on different sectors. And what we found was that young people and the low-paid people will carry a lot of the burden of lockdowns and the coronavirus in the economy. So that was really valuable in thinking about the different impacts that this crisis has on different age group, different pay groups, and how when we come out of this crisis, we can end up with a more unequal society than we went into the crisis with. And that's a key for making policy, trying to counteract that on the part of government. The finishing slides of this presentation will look at some of the advice I live by or try to live by. It's not always easy to keep these things in mind and actually act on it. But what I have learned is that I never know what comes next. So when I went to Durham to study philosophy, politics and econ, I didn't know that policy jobs existed. I didn't know that my job that I currently have was a thing. But I realized that during the journey as I went along. And I think that's really key. Just think about where you are now and then do what feels best, what you think is best for you at that time. And then once you get to the future, you'll have more opportunities that you can't know about where you are now. So, and that's the way I still think about my career, my general life. I'll just do the thing that feels best now, and that I find most exciting now. And then in the future, I'll have more opportunities, more things to choose from that I can't know. The other thing that I have done is seek out people, find people that I think are really cool, that I admire, and then I try to do what they do. So when I was choosing my degree at university, I would look at people I admired and look at their CVs online. I still do that. Go on LinkedIn, find people that do the jobs that you want to do, and look at what they've done. What degrees did they have? What kind of experience did they have? What work have they done? What jobs, what contacts did they have? And try to replicate. And then crucially, the thing that I think is probably the most important is to seek feedback and then take it on. And those are two different things. So feedback isn't something that you get for free often. Sometimes you get it from teachers, etc., where it's their jobs to give you feedback. But if you do an internship, for instance, you have to seek feedback in order to improve. So when I was at Centre for Cities, I really tried to get feedback on my writing, on my research, on my kind of general behavior in the office, and then try to improve. And the key thing about this is that I don't know what I'm doing wrong or what I could improve on, but actually once people tell you what you could be doing better, then it's so much easier to improve and to improve quickly. So that is probably my top advice to anyone, and something that I keep doing. Sometimes it's hard because sometimes it's not nice to hear the things that you're not very good at, but that's the only way you're going to realize what you're not good at. So that's something I keep seeking, and I keep really trying to take on, and thinking about that constructively in future. And then on trying to get into policy, obviously doing an internship is one thing. And if you're lucky, you'll get an internship where you're not just serving coffee, you're doing a lot of really interesting and cool work. But some other ways to think about getting into the policy world is to look at lists of think tanks or charities. So the LSE Think Tank by Region page on their website is really good. It's called Think Tank by Region, and it lists think tanks by their focus area. So for Resolution Foundation, you'd say Resolution Foundation, UK, London, improving living standards for low to middle incomes. And then you can look at your interest area, you can look at where you want to work and click into that organisation. Charityjob.co.uk is also very good at just listing lots of jobs. And another way to look at that I do currently as well, to look at jobs that you want to do in future, maybe like 5 years from now, look at the requirements that they want you to have, the kind of skills, the professional qualifications, the background, whatever, and just try and tick those boxes. And if you don't know how to tick them, then ask someone how to tick them. It's not always straightforward how to get the experience you want. The other thing I mentioned is find people that you admire and look at their CVs. LinkedIn is a fantastic resource to do this. And also LinkedIn is a good way. It can be a good way of getting in contact with new people. So when I grew up in this small town in Sweden, going abroad for university wasn't really a thing. And doing the job I'm doing now wasn't really a thing. So the way I've learned about this and the way I've found a way into this world is by looking at other people, getting in contact with them, asking them questions about the things I want to know. So LinkedIn is a great way of just finding the people that you admire, and you can ask them a question in the messaging function, which is scary, but a lot of people reply. I reply to people all the time who message me on LinkedIn. So definitely worth doing. I've also messaged a ton of people on LinkedIn. The civil service fast stream is always a good resource as well if you want to work in government. So that's kind of government policy jobs, whereas I'm on the other side of doing research kind of for public debate, for media, as a kind of evidence base for government. And then, like I say, get in contact with people, ask them for a 5-minute, 15-minute Zoom call, ask them a question on email. It's the only, if you don't have, some people are really fortunate and they have a big network of people through the parents or family or friends or school, and they can just ask people they know. If you don't have that network, you need to get in contact with people. So that's what I've done. I think I advise anyone to do it. I think it takes some guts to do it. You just have to kind of email people, get in contact with people, and you're going to have a lot of no's, you're going to have a lot of kind of ignores, but you're going to have some people replying to you. So that's how I've made it, and that's how other people can make it too.